Hey, what's up, guys? Shuckle King here, bringing you my round 2 battles for Summer Showdown 2018. I'm pretty excited to get past first round of pools like I did last year, but unlike last year, I also want to get past round 2 of pools and make it to the bracket rounds. That'll be pretty neat to be able to do that and maybe bring home a championship, which is something I'd like to do eventually in one of these tourneys. It's hard to do, and not too many people win them just because there's only one winner, and this one is 256 people, so it's tough, but I feel like it's definitely doable with the team that I have, so I'm excited for that. If you guys are excited for future content I'm going to have on the channel like I am, make sure you guys like this, subscribe to my channel to keep posted on the videos I'll be posting in the future, and comment and say what you guys like or don't like about the videos I've been posting. I appreciate the feedback. But yeah, no, it's going to be pretty cool what I'm going to be posting on the channel for the next couple months. Different stuff than what I've been doing. Still Draft League, but different type of leagues and such. So anyway, on to my first battle against Leo from the Hive, not 6 Foot Hacks, but Leo is a very good battle. I know that, and I think I've battled him once before. His team from Most Elite Threatening is a Zera Aura, Primarina, Celesteela with Z-moves, Mega Lopunny, Latias, Infernape, and Rhyperior. Now he only has 7 Pokemon on his team instead of 8. Makes it a little bit easier to prep for, but he also has a lot more threatening mons with his team, so it kind of balances out in that regard. I'm pretty confident he's not going to bring Rhyperior in this matchup. I do have Suicune, Greninja, Infernape, even Palossand to an extent, Mega Scizor. It does okay against Clefable, it depends, and Mew, it's also iffy. Handles the Raichu okay, but it could have Surf or Grass Knot for Rhyperior, so I don't think that has the best matchup in this game. Zeraora is pretty good just because my Electro Resist is Palossand, so I gotta watch out for that. Primarina, I don't have the greatest switch-ins to like a Specs, Hydro Pump or Specs Moonblast, maybe like a Special Defensive Suicune or Mew. Celesteela is pretty good against my team, but I do have Infernape that can revenge kill pretty easily, and Mew and Suicune can phase it out, so I'm not too worried about that. And I have a Alolan Raichu as well that can be Scarfed and has to be an autonomized set. So things that are pretty good in this matchup, I feel like Mew, both offensively and defensively, do really well against this team. Defensively, it's nice to handle like the Lopunny, Infernape, the Zeraora, even like the Latias, okay. Offensive, could potentially sweep, depending on what spread that I have, just because Psychic hits his team pretty hard except for the Latias and the Celesteela. So if I run like a Shadow Ball or a Bug move plus a Fire move, then Mew should be in pretty good shape there. Alolan Raichu is a pretty good matchup. He really doesn't have any reliable switch-ins to it. I can run Grass Knot or Surf, as I said before, to handle the Rhyperior if that's going to be his initial switch-in, and Psychic's going to do a lot anyway. Like a Psychic plus a Surf or a Grass Knot should be able to kill. But otherwise, Electric plus Psychic handles team very well except for the Latias, so you gotta watch out for that. And Suicune handles like the Primarina okay, it also handles the Mega Lopunny, the Infernape, can phase out the Celesteela. It was my Zeraora somewhat answer in previous battles, so maybe it'll be that again this battle. We'll see. But the first member I have, as you can see here, is a Mew with Psychic, Rock Polish, Nasty Plot, and Fire Blast with a Munium Z. I've been trying to get Mew to be more offensive. It's really nice in the defensive role, but I feel like at +2, either speed or special attack, depending on what the situation is and what mons are left, I should be in good shape to win. If this is like not an early game sweeper, is not going to do well. It's going to be good in a late game role. Like it'll outspeed the Celesteela, the Primarina, and a Rhyperior without a Rock Polish, and with a Rock Polish it outspeed everything. But you kind of want the Nasty Plot to get through the Celesteela and the Latias Rhyperior. I see I had the balance there. The speed allowed me to outspeed a Scarfed Infernape if I get a Rock Polish up, and that's going to be his fastest thing, unless he brings Scarf Latias. I don't hit the Latias super hard, but if I get a Nasty Plot and go for a Munium Z, my Psychics are going to be doing a ton of damage in return. The next Pokemon I have is a Alolan Raichu, as I said before. It does really nice against his team. Life Orb would be super nice to get a bunch of coverage, but to outspeed the Infernape and to outspeed a Celesteela +2 is a pretty big priority, and it outspeeds the Mega Lopunny and Zeraora. It can revenge kill them pretty easily. Voltage, Psychic, Grass Knot I all mentioned before. Signal Beam is there for the Latias. Next Pokemon I have is somewhat of a special defensive Suicune with enough speed to add speed and max speed Celesteela. So if it tries to lead seed me, expecting that I'm going to be like a max HP, max defense, or special defense, or some type of set like that, and he can run speed outspeed me, he's not going to be able to, and I can sub as he leads seeds. If he's also not special attack invested, that he actually doesn't break my sub with a Giga Drain, which is pretty crazy how bulky a Suicune is here. But Scald, Roar, Toxic, Substitute. It's going to be pretty annoying for his team to handle. Roar is there in case like a Mega Lopunny gets the +1, Infernape gets the +2. I don't really want that to happen. It can take a Zera or a hit as long as it's not a Specs. Or I guess Banded, I suppose. I didn't really check the cap for Banded, but Banded I don't think makes a ton of sense versus my team. You probably want the versatility with changing up the moves, especially because I could bring Palisand. And yeah, I think Suicune can do pretty well. Handles the Rhyperior as well. And can live 2 Specs Moonblast from Primarina. It can Toxic in return, so it's not going to do a ton to it, besides get some chip damage from Scald, but it'll put it in range to revenge kill it pretty easily. Next I have Clefable. Kind of standard spread, max HP, max defense. Soft Boil, Moonblast, Toxic, Encore. Encore is there for the Celesteela in case he wants to autonomize. Now I have this over Fire Blast in case if he is like a Weakness Poly Celesteela. He could expect me to have like a Fire move and maybe to KO a Celesteela. But if he gets a +2 boost from the Weakness Policy and gets a +2 speed boost, and then he gets a special attack or attack boost, whatever he wants with Beast Boost, that's going to be a problem. So if I can Encore him into an autonomize, him predicting, then I'm going to go for Fire Blast, and that'll be an okay situation. Otherwise, that's pretty standard. Handles the Latias, Infernape, Zeraora, Mega Lopunny. Doesn't really handle the Primarina, doesn't handle like a Banded Rhyperior, but it handles the rest of his team. Next I have Infernape, which will speed tie his Infernape unless if he's Scarfed. U-turn, Flare Blitz, Gunk Shot, Mach Punch. I don't hit the Rhyperior that well, but otherwise, he really doesn't have switch-ins to this, if he doesn't bring Rhyperior, which I expect, because U-turn is going to do a ton to Latias. Flare Blitz is going to do a decent amount to Primarina, but Gunk Shot is obviously there to OHKO it if I needed to. And the last Pokemon I have is Greninja. Now he doesn't have a grounded poison on his team, and Latias is his defogger, and Greninja obviously handles Latias pretty well. So I feel like if I put enough momentum or enough pressure on this team, Clefable is a free switch in if he brings in the Latias, Infernape U-turns and does a ton of damage, and I can go right into Raichu to single beam it or go into Greninja, or even go into Clefable if I U-turn with Infernape, and then Latias is either forced to defog and sack it off or switch, and Toxic Spikes are still in the field. I feel like Toxic Spikes are pretty good in this matchup. Dark Pulse to hit the Latias, Scald to get burns, and hit the Infernape, and Gunk Shot is there also for the Primarina. Focus Sash just to ensure that I can get Toxic Spikes up, and I outspeed the Latias. That's my team. Let's get right into the game. Alright, here we are for the game against Leo, and as you can see, he did not bring the Rhyperior, which I was not too surprised about. I thought I had the worst matchup out of the 7, but again, right away, ideally Mew can sweep if the Latias is dead. Preferably the Celesteela is dead too, so that way I can just Rock Polish and win. Otherwise I would need to get a nasty plot in order to kill the Celesteela. But Raichu looks pretty good. Again, besides weakening the Latias, that's pretty much key. And hopefully I can keep Toxic Spikes throughout the game and pressure the Latias from preventing it to defog. So I am going to leave my Greninja and hopefully get my Toxic Spikes up right away as he leads with Infernape. U-turns and outspeeds me to show that he's Scarfed. Good information to know. I can just get the Toxic Spikes up and hopefully prevent Latias from defogging him in the future. Brings in the Primarina. I'm going to just Gunk Shot it and do a ton of damage in return. Based on this damage, it looks like it's max HP, and I got a pretty high roll based on my attack investment. But I don't think that the damage doesn't make too much of a difference. It makes a little bit of a difference maybe later on, but just getting this damage was really, really nice. I missed Gunk Shot. That would have been a pretty bad situation for me, but I hit, so that was good. So the Primarina is severely weakened, which is certainly nice for my Infernape to click a Flare Blitz. So I bring in my Raichu, and I can just freely Volt Switch. I say it's a free Volt Switch, even though he has his Aurora and can Volt Absorb it with no problems. I have a pretty free switch in return to my Clefable on this Aurora, and he can't 2-hit KO me in return. So I'm okay with going into Clefable because it also prevents the Latias from coming in. So as long as I can spread this poison damage around the team, that would be great. So I am going to switch out and go to my Clefable, as he is going to go for the knockoff. Get rid of my leftovers, which is unfortunate. It's going to be a little harder to take on, like Infernape, make a low punny without leftovers. But I feel like I can manage. I'm going to Soft Boil and get to 100% to be safe. And being afraid of the Celesteela, I don't want to reveal Encore so early. I'm going to switch into Infernape, because I'm pretty confident he's not going to go for an Air Slash or a Z Fly at this point in the match. I don't think he would bring a Z Fly based on my team. He certainly could, but I feel like Z Steel makes more sense. But anyway, I go into my Infernape and he goes for the Metal Sound. Great for me. Flare Blitz would actually kill him. He's going to save it and go to his Latias to be safe, but I don't want that to get defog, so I'm going to U-turn and does a ton of damage, but enough damage to show me that it's probably a max HP set, which is good to know. Go to my Clefable. Pretty freely go for the Moonblast. He can bring in his Celesteela, but I'm not too threatened about it because I have the Encore, so I'm not afraid of Metal Sound, as you can see here, or going for the Autotomize. So again, I could go and do an Infernape. That'd be pretty risky. He goes in the Latias, maybe predicting that. I'm going to go for the Encore, predicting that he's going to go for the Metal Sound again. And he's in kind of a weird spot. You can go back into Celesteela, but I can just Moonblast and get a ton of damage. Or predict he's going to go back into Celesteela and go into Infernape this time. So I get the little prediction games right there. And he's in a pretty bad spot. Flare Blitz does a lot of damage to the rest of his team at this point. And he doesn't want to sack off a Celesteela this early. So as you can see, this Flare Blitz is going to do a ton of damage to this Infernape. That's crazy damage. But I do have a free switch into Suicune. It's not going to do much to it. The worst it can do is just U-turn out and go into Zeraora, and he does U-turn out. So good play by him. I could have predicted that, but it was really a risk that wasn't worth it for me. So he's getting worn down pretty quickly. I'm going to go to my Clefable, who is designed to take on this Aurora with leftovers, but not really without leftovers. It's a 70% chance for him to kill me with 2 Life 4 Plasma Fists. And the first roll is about the middle roll, maybe slightly below average. So if he gets a really low roll, I can actually live the next Plasma Fist and knock out the Zeraora or Soft Boil. But at this point, I just want stuff dead, so I would kill the Zeraora. But he goes for another Plasma Fist in his turn to try to knock me out. Hopefully knock me out. He needs that to try to keep up kill for kill in this match, and he does get it. Because even if I am going to be down 6-4, he has quite a few things that are weakened. And Mew, Infernape, Raichu are all still pretty big threats to his team. Suicune's not as big of a threat, it's more of a defensive check. And especially because the Primarina is weakened, it's not as useful. It's really only useful to take on the Mega Lopunny to an extent. But my Clefable goes down. A little unfortunate, but I can Revenge Kill with my Raichu, which is Scarfed. And it doesn't really matter if I revealed it as Scarfed right now. He could have made the play in the Celesteela, predicting I wouldn't go for an electric move. But I would say that's kind of risky. I feel like Latias is probably the best play, predicting like if he did predict an electric move, or if he just predicted a Psychic. And hopefully Latias can take 2 and roost up. But instead I just go for the Single Beam, which hits the Zeraora and the Latias. Again, I don't want it to remove the spikes as possible, because I want to poison that Mega Lopunny. So I am actually able to kill off this Latias. It wasn't going to do much with how low it was. So that's one less threat down, and Mew is in a lot better shape to try to sweep late game. So he brings in a Lopunny. I'm not going to be able to do much with Single Beam to it, so I'm going to go to my Suicune to sack it, basically, because I want Mew to be as at full as possible in order to try to set up the sweep. Return even from a more especially defensive Suicune, he's not able to 2-hit KO me. He could potentially KO me with a high jump kick, but the risk of me running Protect is probably not worth it. It's just better to try to get off the guaranteed damage from return. And I'm going to be able to bring him down to less than half. It really didn't matter how far I brought him down. I just needed a free switch in into my Mew. And my Mew can set up a Rock Polish at this point and do a lot of damage to his team. Now, I'm not going to be able to sweep because he does do about half, and it's not worth it for me to risk a damage roll to try to go for Nasty Plot and win, especially because he could have like Mach Punch on Infernape or even Quick Attack in his Mega Lopunny. So safe for me just to Rock Polish. I'll be able to kill this Mew and then hopefully do a lot of damage to what I'm assuming the switch in is going to be the Celesteela. And he would have to go into Celesteela hoping I don't have Fire Z to take it out. And I do not. I have the Munium Z. But that was a reason why I didn't go for the Munium Z there on the Mega Lopunny. To try to fake him out that I could have had the Fire Z, and then maybe he would have played that around differently. But now we made the right play going into a Celesteela. I am not able to knock it out, and return he is able to knock me out with a Corkscrew Catch. So I'm down 4-2, but Raichu is looking really good shape to win, especially because he's weakened enough so that way a Psychic can knock out this Celesteela. And he really doesn't have the greatest answers to this besides Primarina. He goes into Infernape, which was probably not the correct play. And he acknowledged that as soon as he clicked Infernape, that he should have gone into a Primarina instead. There was a chance where Psychic wouldn't knock him out, and he could actually knock me out and return with a modest Hydro Pump, even if he's not Specs. So if he brought in Primarina there, I would have been forced to go into Infernape, sack it off, and then gone into my Raichu and won the game there, because I would have won regardless. Because the Psychic would have been able to knock him out after that little bit of poison damage from the Toxic Spikes. But he brings in the Infernape. I'm able to Psychic, kill that. He brings in his Primarina. I'm going to stay in here actually and go for the Psychic. I do that because I'm going to be in the range where I'm going to kill it, or it's going to kill itself off after poison damage, and then I could kill with Mach Punch. Or there's a chance that he wouldn't be able to knock me out anyway with Raichu. There's a very low chance that modest Hydro Pump would actually knock out the Raichu from this range. So that's why at this point it was safe for me to save my Alolan Raichu. I'm able to get the kill there for, I guess, Greninja with poison damage, and then go into the Aurora, and I'm going to be able to outspeed and kill with the Psychic. So good game, Leo. He's probably, I feel like I probably had the best team match out of the 3 games, but I would say he was probably the toughest opponent overall as a player. So I'm pretty happy to get this win, and I need at least one more win that pretty much guaranteed my slot. As the previous match, or the previous round, 2 wins wasn't guaranteed to make it past Pool 1, but it usually is. So that's why I feel pretty confident getting one more win should put me in a good spot. But yeah, let's get right on to Game 2. Alright, here we are for the Game 2 Team Builder and Match versus Reginix. I haven't really heard of him, I don't believe, or played him before. But he's gotten around too, so he must be a pretty decent battler. His team from most to least threatening is a Superior, Mew at Z moves, Keldeo, Klefki, Munchlax, Nidoqueen, Como-O, and Mega T-Tar. Superior's pretty annoying to my team. Like it outspeeds Infernape, outspeed the Raichu, doesn't outspeed the Greninja, but outside of like a Life Orb or Specs HP, like a Ice Beam, it would be a problem, or like a Gunk Shot. It sets up on Clefable unless if it's unaware, and Mew. And really, Mega Scizor is the only great thing that handles Superior defensively, so I have to watch out for that. Mew can do anything. Keldeo, it's annoying. I have Suicune and Mew to handle it, but otherwise, like Specs is a really good set versus me. Klefki, if it gets spike subs, is annoying, but Scizor handles it well. Munchlax is not the least useful, just because I even if I do have Infernape, it can be pretty annoying. So I have to make sure I have measures just to make sure it doesn't prosper in this match. So Suicune does pretty well versus team. Outside of like Superior, obviously, like a Life Orb, modest Nidoqueen would be an issue, even if I get a Calm Mind up. And Taunt Mew would be annoying. But otherwise, I feel like Suicune has a very good matchup versus team. Infernape is pretty well to revenge kill like T-Tar, Superior if I'm Scarfed, Klefki, Munchlax, Komao to an extent. It does a lot of damage to Mew if it's not defensive, and Nidoqueen, again, if it's not defensive. And close combat's pretty good versus Keldeo. It won't kill, though, unless Life Orb, but then I'd have to risk a potential speed tie, which is probably not worth it. And Mew is pretty good offensively in this match. Defensively, it's not as great just because Klefki is annoying to it, so I can't Toxic it. I could Will-O-Wisp, but he could Toxic in return and probably stall me out. And Superior is still a pretty annoying set versus Mew, even if I'm defensive. So what I brought this match, you can see here, pretty standard Suicune set. Rest, Calm Mind, Sleep Talk, Scald. Actually, it's probably not standard at this point. People usually run Protect or sub Toxic Suicune, but I feel like this set did pretty well, especially if I can kill off or weaken the Superior a ton. Actually, probably kill it off. I don't want it a weak Superior still on the field and try to set up with the Suicune, but the spread will allow me to live 2 Stone Edges after Rocks from Mega T-Tarb, and then I can rest up, and I should be able to stall out the PP of a Stone Edge with pressure, and then a little bit of more special defense bulk to take on the Nidoqueen a little bit better. Next I have Infernape. Choice Scarf, U-Turn, Close Combat, Flare Blitz, Mach Punch is such a great Choice Scarf user just because of its great speed and hard-hitting stabs. Mach Punch is there to do a lot of damage to the Mega T-Tor in case it gets the agility up. But otherwise I outspeed his entire team unless he brings Scarfed Superior and like a Rock Polish Mew, and like I would speed tie a Keldeo, so I'd have to watch out for that. But pretty standard set. Hits his team pretty hard, handles the Munchlax. So I don't have to worry about that as much. But I guess this can also handle the Munchlax too. Next I have a Fighting Z Mew with Nasty Flat, Psychic, Focus Blast, and Dark Pulse. The speed allows me to outspeed what I expect he's going to bring for like the Nidoqueen or the Superior speed to outspeed Mega Scizor. And maybe even speed creep a little bit. I could speed creep that. And then the rest in the bulk and a special attack. If I get a Nasty Plot up, I kill with Focus Blast on the T-Torb. Dark Pulse does, I think, 80% to Mew after a Nasty Plot Dark Pulse, which is really nice. And then the rest of the team goes down to Psychic. Z Focus Blast can also handle the Klefki, which can be of a nuisance if he's specially defensive. Next set I have is a Life Orb Raichu. I'm surprised how many times I brought Raichu. I didn't think it was going to come too much. But a Volt Switch, Focus Blast, Psychic, and Nasty Plat. Nasty Plat does pretty well because outside of Superior, I outspeed his entire team. And the speed allows me to outspeed the Keldeo. Focus Blast is there for the Mega T-Tarb. Volt Switch for the rest of the team. Because his only electric resist is the Nidoqueen, which I can obviously Psychic. So unless if he's Scarfed, Nidoqueen does not want to switch in on a Alolan Raichu. Next Pokemon I have is the Greninja. Choice Specs, Max Speed, Max Special Attack, Ice Beam, Dark Pulse, Scald, U-Turn. This allows me to actually outspeed Modest Scarfed Nidoqueen. I don't know if he'd bring Scarf Nidoqueen, but if he does, I'd imagine he wants the damage output from Modest. I don't think Timid would usually make too much sense unless he was expecting me to run Max Speed Greninja in that case, but I do outspeed, which is really cool. Also, I don't outspeed a +1 Mega T-Tor, unfortunately, I guess, unless if he's plus attack nature. But otherwise, Ice Beam hits the Superior really hard. I don't think it kills. It might kill after Rocks, but it'll do a ton of damage anyway. Dark Pulse for the Mew, and Dark Pulse is not the most free move on his team, but it hits the Mew really hard. Scald is pretty free first of his team. Keldeo can take it and same with Superior, but Superior doesn't really want to get burned. Keldeo doesn't mind a ton. And then U-Turn is there for momentum, but I feel like I'm probably not going to click that a ton. And the last Pokemon I have is a Mega Scizor with max HP, max special defense. This allows me to live a Leaf Storm plus Hidden Power Fire if I'm in Mega form against a Superior. And even if like regular Scizor, he goes for the Leaf Storm and then I Mega, I do have a really good chance to live the Hidden Power Fire at +2 after that, unless if he's Modest or unless if he's Life Orb. Otherwise, Mega Scizor can return kill with U-Turn, which will be super clutch. Or if I don't kill, if he's like a really bulky spread, then my Raichu or my Greninja should be able to revenge kill it. So that's my team. Let's see how well it does in the match. Alright, here we are for game 2. As you can see, did not bring the Munchlax and did not bring the Klefki. Somewhat surprised about the Klefki. I felt like it got up spikes pretty well, though I guess he was afraid of Mega Scizor being able to fairly reliably take on a Klefki with Defog, and I guess Bullet Punch does enough damage to it, unless he ran like a hidden power Klefki. And Munchlax, I do have an Infernape, so it's kind of a hard bring against me, but I wanted to make sure I was prepped for it, so that's why I ranked it a little bit higher than maybe it was really worth. But looking at his team, hopefully Mew can try to really break down his team, because only the Superior and the Keldeo will be able to outspeed me unless he brings up Speedy Mew. And Infernape looks pretty nice, just be able to revenge kill everything on his team again, unless he brings the Rock Polish Mew. So I have to watch out for that. So leading into this match, he's going to leave his Keldeo, and I'm going to leave with the Mew. I just want to get as much offensive pressure up as possible. I was expecting he could lead like Tyranitar, he could lead with Nidoqueen, Como. In all those instances, I'd be able to get a kill with Mew. So I felt like leading with Mew was pretty good. And this is also pretty good lead against the Keldeo. He's probably not going to want to sack off the Keldeo so early, just because it does so well versus my team, I guess, besides the Suicune, so I really don't have the greatest switch-ins to it. So I'm going to set up a nasty plot in his face, expecting him to switch out, but he actually stays in and Hydro Pumps, and I avoid the attack, which is really unfortunate for him. And I'm able to get a nasty plot up. It's kind of weird. I think a Psychic would have killed, especially because I'm modest. If I'm not modest, I think there's a chance where I didn't kill. But I don't know, risking the Keldeo was a risk, but it would have paid off if he hit 2 Hydro Pumps. Or even if he hit 1, I might have been forced to switch and go to my Suicune. So that's really sucky. I didn't want that to happen in this match, but you got to take all the opportunities that you get. It was a little unfortunate in some of the battles in my round 1 pools, but I was able to overcome those. So hopefully Reggie could maybe overcome this in this match. Hopefully not for me, but maybe for his part, he could probably still overcome this miss. But I'm in a pretty good shape to go for a Psychic here. And he just sacks off his Keldeo to get a ton of damage off of me. Again, yeah, obviously 2 Hydro Pumps would have killed because he specs, but he's at least able to go into Superior and get basically a free +2 off, unless if he misses this attack too, which he does not. He's a very offensive Superior based on that damage, and does about a third with Infernape. So I'm okay taking that damage. I don't want my Scizor to take it yet if I don't have to. And Infernape should be able to scare off this Superior. I'm going to go for the U-turn because I don't expect him to stay in. And based on this damage, it looks like it's a max defensive set, especially because he's Rocky Helmet. I'm going to go into Mew. Mew's basically served this purpose. It got it killed. It could revenge the Como or the Nidoqueen later, maybe, or even get off the Fighting Z. But I can get a ton of damage with a Dark Pulse off. And even a Greninja could also do the same with a Dark Pulse. It would lead more of a free switch into Nicomo or Tyranitar, and I don't really want that at this point in the match. So I'm going to just go for a Dark Pulse and get a lot of damage off. Again, based on this damage, it looks like it's max HP, max defense, and really no special defense investment. He's able to knock out my Mew with a Nightshade. I'm going to go into Greninja, and it looks like a pretty good matchup because really nothing on his team is going to take an Ice Beam that well. I guess T-Tar will okay, but it really doesn't want to take it. He goes into Como, though, and as I go for the Ice Beam, I only do less than half. This means that he's max HP at Salt Vest, which is definitely not a set, but it worked out for him. The damage roll would be 45 to 53.6%. So it's about a 40% chance to kill with 2 Ice Beams. So obviously not worth the risk to try to get a high roll because he's probably going to knock me out with a fighting move. So I'm going to switch in my Raichu, which can take a fighting move pretty well, and go for the Drain Punch. Still does 40%. It's ridiculous how frail Raichus are. But I can front that with a Psychic pretty freely, especially because I can go for the Focus Blast and his Tyranitar the next turn. Now obviously there's risk there because if he Dragon Dances and I miss, that's pretty bad. I mean, my Scizor can kind of revenge, plus my Infernape, but I don't want to sacrifice a couple things to take out this Tyranitar, because it's really not that big of a threat to my team, or it shouldn't be that big of a threat. So I am going to go for the Focus Blast, and hopefully I hit, but I do deserve the miss after the Hydro miss. But fortunately I do hit and bring it really low. This shows that he's probably not much bulk at all, and just like a really speedy set, maybe to outspeed my Suicune. But I am able to kill the Tyranitar here with a Volt Switch, which is really nice. One less thing to worry about, though my Raichu is really weakened, so I can only go for 2 more hits at most. So bring in my Greninja, kind of force out the Como-O, which I'm okay with. I can get a little bit of chip damage on that and hopefully bring it in range where it's down under 50%. So Ice Beam does really well versus the rest of the team. So I'm going to go out in my my Scizor on the Como, predicting he's not going to go for a Fire Punch, even though I do expect that he's going to have it. But I'm going to go for the Bullet Punch here and sack off my Scizor just to get it in range of my Greninja to kill with Ice Beam. Yes, this was my primary answer for Superior, but I feel like my Infernape plus my Greninja should be able to take it on pretty well, even though technically I'm not 100% sure if the Superior is Scarfed or not, and if he's Scarfed, this is a pretty bad play, but I'm going to go under the assumption that he's not Scarfed. So I'm going to go into my Scizor and go for the Bullet Punch and bring it definitely to within range where my Ice Beam from my Greninja can kill. But as we saw before, the roll was 45 to 54%. And he's at 48, so it's a good chance for me to kill, but it's not guaranteed. And it's definitely not worth the risk of me losing my Greninja to a low roll, or maybe he's more special defense investment than just max HP. So I have to consider that. So instead of doing that, I'm going to go into my Raichu and just kill it Psychic. He really doesn't have the greatest switch-ins at this point, so I can just Psychic and kill off the Como-O. Could have gone into Mew, I guess, but I would have been able to kill with 2 hits regardless. And I guess he values the Mew a little bit more than the Como at this point, which is definitely fair. And it also gives him a free switch into the Superior and get a +2 off. Again, if he's Scarfed, it's pretty bad for me at this point, but again, I'm assuming that he's not Scarfed. So I'm going to go to my Infernape, which was really the only play regardless if he was Scarfed or not, because it's the only one that can kill from full reliably. Greninja could kill, depends on his spread. So I'm going to go right for the Flare Blitz. He really doesn't have a switch in unless he's like a defensive Nidoqueen, which I really didn't expect going into this match. So I'm going to go for the Flare Blitz, and I actually do kill, which is great. Superior would have been nice to handle the Suicune, but my Greninja probably killed with Ice Beam, so I guess he didn't really want to risk that. So he just lets the Superior die here and get a free switch into the Nidoqueen, knowing he can take a hit. Now, unfortunately, I'm not Blaze. I am Iron Fist to boost my Mach Punch damage. It would have been nice to do extra damage to this Nidoqueen, but I cannot, and he gets a Toxic Spikes up, so I kill myself to Flare Blitz recoil. Now, based on his HP, I know he's max HP, but I don't know his item because he does not show Black Sludge. Now, there is a chance that he could be a Salt Vest. I was expecting like Scarf or like an offensive modest like Nidoqueen with Life Orb to take on the Suicune pretty well. But if he's a Salt Vest, I go into my Greninja, I don't kill with Dark Pulse, and then he can kill me. And then at that point, it's going to be really hard for my Mew to beat my Suicune to beat the Mew, because I have no idea what type of set it is. It could be a Taunt Roost set, based on, and it would make sense if he's like Taunt Roost, Psychic, maybe Toxic is the last move or something, just because it handled the, oh no, we know that it's Nightshade at this point, so it could be Taunt, Roost, Nightshade, and then maybe Psychic, or maybe a status move or something. So really, I feel like my only play here is to go into Greninja and Ice Beam, just because it'll kill the Nidoqueen. If he's Yachi, then so be it. But I should kill with my Greninja, and then, unless I get like a min roll with my Greninja, I will be able to knock out the Mew as well. So I'm going to go into Mew and just go for the Ice Beam. I'm going to kill something now, either the Mew or the Nidoqueen. He sacks off the Nidoqueen. And it should be game with my Greninja here. So good game to Reggie. 2-0 now and should be in pretty good shape to advance. Depends about the third matchup. But I don't kill with Ice Beam. I had to have got the min roll at that point. Later on, I realized I didn't get a min roll. He was actually, I think it was 76 or 80 SPDF in special defense, and then max HP to rest in defense. And based on the damage earlier, I thought I got a What was it? I guess this shows that I had a min roll with my Dark Pulse on the Mew earlier, and then I got like a min roll with my U-turn against the Mew earlier in the match. If I gotten like maybe 2% more damage off on that U-turn that I did on the Mew earlier in the match where I got the Rocky Helmet damage, I would have known that it wasn't max defense, and maybe would have. I definitely would have realized that something was up with this Mew set if it wasn't just max. But I get a low roll. Oh, this is like a lowish min roll, like a lowish middle roll with the Ice Beam. So that's pretty unfortunate, and I'm in a pretty tough spot. I mean, I can come in and Dark Pulse will do like 75%, so that's pretty good, but it's kind of risky to bring it in, and I have to figure out a way to get that chip damage off on this Mew. So I can go into my Suicune and just hope for the best, because I'm not going to stay in and try to go for the Ice Beam Freeze. So he goes for the Soft Boiled and gets the full. I mean, I can still hopefully Calm Mind on this because I don't know he has Taunt yet, but I'm really expecting that he would have Taunt, and he does. So my Suicune cannot set up on this, which is pretty unfortunate. At this point, I just have to go for Scalds, and hopefully I get a burn and see how much damage I do with my Scald as he goes for the Nightshade. If I can get a burn, then I think I should put it in range to where Greninja should probably kill with a Dark Pulse after the burn damage. So if you saw there, 19%, it's kind of borderline, 21% a good roll, and I get the burn. So he's brought down to less than 75%, so I should be able to kill with a Dark Pulse, which is really nice. But my taunt goes off, so I figured I'd just go for the rest in the off case he doesn't go for the taunt. And he actually goes for the Nightshade, which is great for me. I'm able to recover out the full. He probably should have taunted there, but he was in a kind of a tough situation. I probably would have won 1-0 in that sense if he went for the taunt there. But I still was going to win. His best play to try to win is maybe staying at full HP and getting at 94% is here and knocking out my Mew. Or I'm knocking out my Suicune, so that way my Greninja will not be able to knock me out, guaranteed with a Dark Pulse. So he goes for the taunt there. I get unlucky with Sleep Talk. It's not the biggest deal in the world. But Suicune is also going to start pressuring the PP and Nightshade, so he has to consider that as well. And Skull's doing decent damage. I mean, after the burn, it's doing more than 25%, which is really nice. And his Nightshade are doing about 25%. So we're basically doing about the same damage. He's brought pretty low, but it would still be pretty risky to bring the Greninja in at this point because he could Nightshade there. He goes for the taunt, which I expected, so I'm going to go for the Scald and put him in a pretty bad spot. At this point, if he goes for the Soft Boil and I bring in my Greninja, I win, which I'm going to do. Or if he just attacked me, he lost his Mew, and I would have won. So this gives me a chance to go on my Greninja. I'm going to 100% kill with Dark Pulse, and I'm going to be able to pull out this 2-0 victory here. It's nice to get an extra differential point against my opponent because I only won 2-0 in the previous game. And when based on the round 1 pools, having not great differential is usually not that helpful. So the 1 differential point certainly helps. So I'm 2-0 plus 4, and I'm going to end my pool at a 3-0 plus 7 because we were not able to schedule the battle with my last opponent, and I was able to get an activity win based on their availability and my availability to play. I was more active in general. My opponent built like maybe the day before we were supposed to battle, and he didn't have much availability the last day of the deadline. So I do advance past round 2 pools, which was, I wouldn't say my goal, but I do better than last year, which is certainly really nice and showing I have some improvement here. That I'm really trying to win this whole tournament. Just getting past round 2 pools is good, but it's not good enough for me. So we'll see you next time with the brackets and see how well I do. But until next time, later guys.